Mr. Michael.
Right?
Now be honest, you really were singing that to the young lady in the back there.
Of course.
Oh yes, well. Just
I'll buy you a rum punch after the set.
Sounds good to me.
Well, just remember, I'm the captain. You know, I get first pick. Hello, darling.
What, here I am. Wasn't enough?
You said you'd never bring that up. Anyway, it's a wonderful profession being a pirate, lads and lasses. But the first lesson you learn of piracy, there are two lessons you learn. I'm going to tell you both of them.
How to swim?
I beg your pardon?
How to swim?
Well, that does help. But the main lesson you learn is that as a pirate, whether you have one eye or two eyes, because as you know, some pirates wear eye patches if they lose their eyes in battle. You keep one eye in front and the other eye watching over your shoulder. Now, I learned that lesson the hard way with my first mate, a man by the name of Oscar Andrews. Now, Oscar Andrews was once captain of a pirate ship himself. And one day he was stalking a ship. He was chasing down that ship. The plan that he had was that he was going to go after that ship, take it over and make it his flagship. But at the same time he was doing that, a ship was actually coming in the other direction as well. It was another pirate ship, and who was the captain of that ship? But me. And we both got close, and we both attacked at the same time. But then we kind of looked at the situation, and it seemed very confusing. This had never happened before. But it's always good to often work together to get tasks done. We all have had to do it in our daily lives, in our jobs. So me and Oscar Andrews agreed to work together and attack and pillage the other ship. Makes sense, right? So we did, and we took over that ship, and we made it our flagship. And we celebrated right there on the deck of the ship. But the celebration, lads, was short-lived. Because both Andrews and myself thought that we should be the captains. So, the battle then turned to each other. But I defeated him right there on the deck of the ship. And I became the new captain. But I agreed to keep Andrews on as my first mate. Now, Oscar Andrews oftentimes tries to retake the captain's position, but has been unsuccessful. But one incident, he almost got away with it. For you see, he got the whole crew together, and they all mutinied against me, and they shackled me up and placed me in a lifeboat and set me adrift in the ocean. But this lifeboat had no supplies, provisions, and no, not even any rum at all. So the plan was to throw me into the ocean, and the sea creatures and the sun and the lack of provisions would be enough to do me in the end. Now, Captain Andrews, as he commissioned himself, arrived at a port called Portagotor. It is a somewhat safe haven for pirates, set up by another former pirate captain, now retired, a man by the name of Gentleman Jason Williams. Now, there's Oscar Andrews celebrating the night away at Williams Tavern Inn. But then who should arrive in port shortly thereafter but me? And all the music stopped, and I focused gaze on old Oscar Andrews. And I said, "So, you thought you could leave me tied to that lifeboat and leave me to sail the seas en route to the Dutchman?" And he dropped to his knees and he begged to be spared. And I looked him right in the eye, and he backed me. And I drew my pistol, and I said, "I didn't think you had it in you!" And with that, I retook the captain's position and joined in the celebration. It was a glorious time, although Oscar Andrews was not in such a delightful mood. Oh well, but I agreed to demote Oscar Andrews back down to first mate. Now, many people questioned after he mutinied against me, why I would do something like that. It's because of rule number 2 of piracy, mates. You've heard this one before. You keep your friends close and your enemies closer, mates. And let me point out, the only person who did not join in the mutiny was Minstrel Michael over there. And they locked him, yes, big round of applause. But from what I hear, they locked him in the brig with nothing except his guitar. At least they gave you that, lad, right?
They let me out again within the week because nobody else could cook worth a damn.
I will say, Minstrel Michael is a wonderful cook as well. Now, we've all had mothers once upon a time, haven't we? And are there any mothers here today? Any mothers? Oh, we have one. Well, this story I'm going to share with you, lads, is about a mother who stood by her son up until the end. Now, out of the New Hampshire area, there came born and raised a pirate, or a man who went to piracy. He was born and raised under the name of Jack Rosethorn. Now, old Jack, even though from the New Hampshire area, made quite a name for himself as a pirate in Boston. Now, eventually he was taken and captured by the authorities, forced to stand trial for his crimes of piracy. And he was found guilty of these charges, and it was decreed that Jack Rosethorn is to be executed by the noose on the morrow on Boston Common. Now, to be a jailer at the Boston jail is a very, very tedious job. You just sit there watching the prisoners night after night and nothing else. But on this particular evening, old Jack Rosethorn, surprisingly enough, had a late visitor.
'Twas his mother!
Aye! Now his mother goes to the jailer and says, "Oh, please, sir, please, let me give me son a final meal as the condemned man, and let me comfort me son in his hour of sorrow as he goes off to meet his fate." Now the jailer looked somewhat peculiar at Jack's mother, but saw that she was a very kind and caring woman, and said, "Very well, ye may pass. Go and feed your son." And she's feeding Jack, and she's comforted him, and she gives him a nice cup of wine to wash everything down. And there's the jailer the whole time, watching Jack and his mother. But eventually the boredom and the fatigue overtook the jailer as he drifts off to a contented sleep. Now the morrow came. The jailer goes over, grabs the keys, unlocks the door to Jack's cell, but Jack's not in his cell. So they search the entire city of Boston, and they find old Jack, and they lock him back in the Boston jail. And it's decreed one more time, Jack Rosethorn is to be executed by the noose on the morrow on Boston Common. Once again, there's the jailer guarding Jack. And then once again, old Jack Rosethorn had yet another late visitor.
'Twas his mother!
Aye, that's correct. So his mother goes to the jailer and says, "Oh, please, please, let me give my son another meal, and let me comfort my son one more time before he once again goes off to meet his fate." Now, the jailer's looking a little bit more suspiciously at Jack and Jack's mother, but agrees reluctantly, "You may pass, go and feed your son." And she's feeding Jack, and she comforts him, and she gives him a bit of beef and some greens and some potatoes and a nice cup of wine to wash it all down. And the jailer sits there watching Jack and his mother. But once again, the boredom and the fatigue overtook the jailer as he drifts off once more to a contented sleep. Now the morrow came yet again. The jailer goes over, grabs the keys, and he goes over and locks the door to Jack's cell, but Jack once more is not in his cell. So they search the entire city of Boston, and they find old Jack, and they take him, and they lock him back in the Boston jail, and it's decreed one more time. Jack Rosethorn once more is to be executed by hanging on Boston Common on the morrow. But now the stories are circulating around the city of Boston. How is Jack pulling off these miracles? Jack must be a practitioner of witchcraft and the black arts. But the jailer, he doesn't buy into any of these black arts stories. He says, I'm gonna stay awake no matter what it takes. And I'm gonna learn the secret to Jack Rosethorn's black arts magic. And there is the jailer sitting there that night, guarding old Jack very intently. And then once again, Jack Rosethorn had yet another late visitor.
Was his mother!
That's right.
You can all sing along.
So his mother goes over to the jailer and says, oh, please, sir, please. I mean, stop, says the jailer. Ye may pass, go and feed your son. So she goes over, she's feeding Jack, and all the time she's looking back, and she can see that the jailer, although struggling, is managing to stay awake. He's not falling asleep. He pulls himself up. He stands up, walks around, and he's staying awake, keeping an eye on Jack and his mother. So Jack's mother goes over to the jailer and says, oh, my dear sir, I do apologize. I forgot to bring some cups for the wine. You don't happen to have any, do you? And the jailer smiles and says, why, yes, they're in the galley. I'll get you some. So he goes over, but he doesn't go get the cups. He goes hiding behind the wall, and then he peeks over, and there he learns the secret to Jack Rosethorn's black arts magic. The secret was that every time the jailer would fall asleep, Jack's mother would go over, grab the keys, unlock the door to Jack's cell, and Jack would be off and about on his way. And then she would gently put the keys back, not to arouse suspicion. Now the morrow came. The jailer goes over, unlocks the door to Jack's cell, pulls him out, brings him forth to Boston Common. The charges are read, and Jack Rosethorn is hung for his crimes of piracy right there at Boston Common. And hanging next to Jack, you guys can all join in. You all know what it is, ready? 'Twas his mother! Very good.